As a politician, there's one number that worries me more than all of the others. Only 6% of people in Britain today, that's just 1 in 17, thinks the environment is one of the biggest problems our country faces.
The Manchester Evening News held its very first forum on climate change last night, and the often fiery debate drew academics, campaigners and business people from all over Manchester, as well as the Lib Dem leader, Nick Clegg.
We've all got to be out there talking, discussing, innovating. And that's why events like this are so important. And that's why I'd like to warmly congratulate the Manchester Evening News.
And talk they did. The panellists got heated interruptions from members of the audience, while the experts themselves readily disagreed with one another.
Globally, we've done nothing since, when was the Earth Summit, 92? We've done nothing since then. Emissions have just risen year on year. This year, the emissions are 3% higher than last year. Next year, the emissions will be 3% higher than this year, and that's despite all the hot air on climate change globally.
We have to consider that it's not new. There's people sort of say, climate change, global warming, they wrap them in too. Climate change can go both ways, hot or cold. If you go back over Earth history, 3,000 million years, you'll find a whole series of cycles at various scales.
But we're interfering at one of the awkward times when it's already at a very warm period. And so on top of the warm from the geological changes, as it were, over the Quaternary period of glaciations, on top of that is building a little blip on the top.
There was a broad consensus, though, that humans were responsible for CO2 emissions, but how to stop them was up for more debate.
My point is a slightly more fundamental political point, which is that unless everybody feels that government and business, individuals and households are doing their bit, unless you have burden sharing, then no one will do anything. It's a classic free rider problem. I know a lot of people in Sheffield who say, yeah, of course I want to do something, but why should I do something? Why should I put a hippo in my loo, which saves some litres of water, if I've watched the water company fail to fix a leak in a water main just round the corner for the last 2 weeks? Why should I recycle stuff if I come home every afternoon with 10 tonnes of packaging? It's this kind of feeling of, unless people feel it's being done by everybody, they won't do anything. And I think that's the political dilemma which we're facing.
Remember is that in all of this is that the small steps that we take are not immediately going to make a great impact. And I think that's one of the worrying things, that people think if they stop having their central heating on, that climate change is going to go away. It's not. It's going to take just by reducing will not lower temperatures. It will not bring glaciers back and polar ice sheets back and put ice on the North Pole on the surface of the ocean again. It's not. It won't do that.
This is not rocket science. We can do this. If climate change is important, no more sports cars that only do 15 miles per gallon or four-wheel drives do 15 miles per gallon. No more large fridges that aren't A++ rated. And all power stations have combined heat and power. There's a small set of policies we have by 2010.
I foresee rioting in the streets, but...
I have faith in this part of the world, and I have faith in human nature. So I wouldn't use the blunt stick of legislation other than as a minimum and other than as the one for the ones who are backsliding. I would actually give business its head and give some leadership, because I think that's the way we'll make the quickest progress.
After an hour and a half of debate and questions from the audience, the MEN's first climate change forum was over, but with promises of more to come.
As Paul said, this is not the last of these. This is not the last time you and I will face a panel of experts and you will give them a good grilling. But can I thank, on your behalf, Nick Clegg, Dr. Henry Clemmy, Paul Monaghan, Professor Kevin Anderson, David Collins, John Twigg and Andrew Robinson.
This is Jessica Salter for the Manchester Evening News.